All right, so without further ado, the presentation today that I have prepared for you is just talking about some simple strategies to just get more leads right away and talk about what's going on in the advertising market in 2025, what I think things are going to look like in 2026. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And to give you a little bit of background about myself as well, I know Aaron Furman mentioned about it a little bit, but yeah, I started doing home inspections back in 2018, 2019. There's some great podcasts you can listen out to that I spoke on how I got into the industry. It's a funny story. I got into a fight that somehow led me to become a home inspector. Really funny story. But regardless, I did inspections for about 2 years for my parents' company. I really had a drive and knack for marketing, especially digital marketing. Nobody in the home inspection space was doing a lot of digital marketing at the time. It was right before COVID. I just love the challenge. Marketing, as you guys probably know, especially digital, changes constantly, especially right now. So with that, I just loved the challenge and how it changed so much. Eventually, I got a job as a marketing and sales manager over at Waypoint, based in Tampa, Florida. They had about 20 inspectors at the time. They worked up to, I think, 30 inspectors or so. I did that for about 2 years, and at that time, I also had Wolfpack as like a side business where I helped a few companies in the state of Florida that needed help with their digital marketing, whether it was a website, SEO, their own advertising, or some help with their social media. After about 2 years of working with Waypoint, Wolfpack got to a point where I was hiring people for help. I needed to dedicate my full-time job to it, so I left Waypoint. And since then, for about 4 or 5 years now, Wolfpack has been my full-time gig. We're up to 15 employees now at our company, helping hundreds of different home inspectors and even tons of other people in other industries. Things like septic companies, doctors, attorneys. I just got back from a conference that was actually, if you follow me on social media, I was just at one of the largest marketing conferences there are in San Francisco with a bunch of large corporations sending their marketing people to it. So anyway, all this stuff gets me really excited, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. So before I jump into the actual nuts and bolts of everything, I want to get started off with a case study. And this particular case study is for local service ads. Who here is familiar with Google local service ads? Should be everybody, right? Some people didn't raise your hand. Are you guys unfamiliar with Google local service ads? Who's not familiar with it? About 2 people? Okay. We'll get into Google local service ads and what it all means, but essentially, think of it as Google search ads 2.0, where you just pay per lead. Think like a Yelp ads, but it's way better. So we're working with local service ads for a home inspection company that's based in North and South Carolina. They cover 2 portions of the state. I don't believe they cover both whole states, but they're in both. And in this first metric that you're seeing, what we're covering is their total spend here. So their total spend within a given month was $1,800. That's how much they spent on Google local service ads. And this data that I pulled was just last month. So this is fresh off the presses, the best reporting that I can get for you, and most up to date. They received 97 good leads from it. Nearly 100 leads, all home inspections. And their cost per lead was $18. So the total return on investment was nearly 1,100% or $20,000 from $1,800 in spend. It's absolutely crazy how well this can perform in certain markets. Now, I will tell you, this guy has been with us for a few years now. He had tons of bad luck in other places, and this is definitely one of those months that it was an anomaly where he did really, really well. And I'll get into that a little bit later on. But these types of results are absolutely doable. And I'll get into a little bit more, but if you're struggling with Google local service ads, I'm happy to stick around later and talk about your specific situation because it does vary a little bit by market to market. So here's a screenshot of his actual dashboard. So he spent around $1,700 at the top left there, which I think I have a laser pointer. Nice. $1,700. As you can see, he got 97 leads. Of those leads, 80 were phone calls and 17 were messages. Now, one number, if you're doing Google local service ads on your own, one number I really, really want you guys to pay attention to is this absolute top of impression rate on search. I really hope Google local service ads updates these metrics, but this is one of the most key numbers. This tells us how often the business ranks number one when they are given an opportunity to advertise. So he's given essentially 90% of the time, he's the number one person that shows up in his market when he's given the opportunity to advertise by Google. That is really, really important here because essentially the number one position, as you guys know, especially with Google Local Service Ads or Google Organic, you're more likely to get more leads, a lower cost, and higher lead quality. So how does this metric happen? How do you get this up? Well, funny question. Google doesn't tell you. Google doesn't tell you, so we have to assume a couple different things. Number one, they do tell you that it's based on your answer rate. So if you miss calls, if calls are accidentally going to voicemail, I had a case where I was working with a home inspector for a few months, and he didn't know that all of his calls were going to spam because T-Mobile was just sending unknown callers to spam automatically. He had no idea he was missing all these calls. So double check that. After that, just make sure you never miss a phone call from Google Local Service Ads. That's so, so important. And what we found with a couple companies as well is if you had an instance to where there was a month or two where you were missing phone calls, it could take you a few months to bring this number up, to show your reputation back to Google like, hey, no, I'm here, I'm going to answer. Now, there's a couple other insights into this, things like your own reviews, how many reviews you have against your competition, your review rate, and I'll get into all that stuff here in a little bit. I'm kind of giving you a little bit of a sneak peek. Your review rate is one, how many reviews, and what the competition is doing. So if you have a lot of competition that have a ton of reviews, that have really good ratings, that answer the phone every single time, then maybe the 90% absolute top of impression rate on search in your market is a little bit more difficult. But this guy is definitely in a unique opportunity. So, how do you do it? Well, I'm going to go through in this presentation, give you your plan of what you need to do in order to achieve those exact results. And I'm outlining exactly what we do for this company. So number one, you need a Google Business Profile. Step one. That Google Business Profile, Google has become more and more restrictive over the days, and I'll get into this a little bit later. But Google has been so restrictive on making sure that your addresses match on your Google Business Profile, your phone numbers match, it matches what's on your insurance, it matches what's on your license. So just make sure you have all of your records straight. If you have an address associated with the state, because you have to register your business with the state, make sure that matches the Google Business Profile, make sure that matches your insurance, make sure that matches your insurance documentation. Because at any point, it could get flagged down.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
6 months it took us to fix it.
Oh.
I had to send Google a video explaining the situation, so they finally listened.
Yeah. I definitely, I hear you. We deal with it almost every single week. I would say there's a new company coming to us with that same exact issue. And unfortunately, I wish I had some type of magic pill to be able to resolve it as a digital marketing agency. But Google doesn't like to give anybody unique, I guess, access. So number two is reviews. Reviews. I can't say how important that is. A lot of people talk about the number of reviews and the review rating. Those things are definitely important. You need to compare yourself against the market and your competition. Okay, so it's great that you might have 50 reviews, but what does the local market have, right? If you're in rural Kansas, well, 50 reviews is actually probably pretty good. But if you're in a really competitive South California market, 50 reviews is nothing compared to some of those competitors in there. And that's who you're going up against in Google Local Service Ads. The other thing is the review rating that I mentioned. So if you're at a 4.6, a 4.7, but your top competitors in your market have 4.9s, 5.0s, that is something to be considered as well. One of the things that I like to consistently bring up that I haven't heard too much of a lot of people discuss is I am one of those believers that Google is tracking your review rate, how frequently you're getting reviews, and using that information to know how alive your business is and how interactive you are with Google. So I would really consider looking at and tracking a metric week over week, your review rate. Essentially, if you did 5 jobs in a week, how many reviews did you get? and track that percentage. So if you got one review and you had 10 jobs completed, that's a 10% review rate, and see that over time. The best, highest companies that I see is about a 20% review rate is what's achievable. Step number 3, I already kind of mentioned this, but answer the phone, please. Please answer the phone. Number 4, track every lead. And I'll get into the analytics and the details of how we're tracking every single lead. But this is so, so important because this is going to understand how things performed and then using that information to optimize the local service ad. Yeah.
How often do you call a home inspector in voicemail?
Very frequently. I can tell you our team reviews so many phone calls, and when I initially started this, I was a little bit blown away about how many times the voicemail or I was sent to voicemail, and how many times home inspectors didn't know how to sell themselves, didn't know how to talk on the phone, or sometimes they were just kind of rude to somebody that was a customer. And I get it. You're a home inspector. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, Aaron. I think you'll like it, hopefully.
Yeah, I just, when you said that, it really struck home. It seems stupid to say part of your job is to answer the phone, but you can spend all the money in the world getting leads. You can talk to real estate agents all over. If you don't answer the phone when somebody's calling. We actually just did a review with one of the largest franchises in the country at ACC. They were looking at forcing all of their team members to use a call center. Because what they found was, on average, over the whole franchise group, the answer rate was under 50%.
Oh my gosh.
And they were doing testing, and they're like, how is anybody making money if you only answer the phone every other time?
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that I appreciate you stressing that. That's super important.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of times that we onboard a new customer and, we start analyzing their leads and understanding hey, it may sound like you're answering the phone every time or you're telling us, but then when you look at the data, hey, you missed, 20% of your calls. And Google is looking at that. So the final one is optimize and expand, which is the part that I'm most excited about, which we'll save towards the end, and that is expanding outside of Google local service ads and why and when and how you should consider that. All right, so let's get started with the Google Business Profile, the basic number 1 item that you need. So start with your profile. First, obviously, you need to create a Google Business Profile. You can do it for free. Oops, accidentally clicked the wrong button. Okay, cool. You can do it for free. Just search Google Business Profile on Google to get started. Pretty simple setup to do. The verification process can be a little bit complicated with the video. If you have issues with the verification, especially the video stuff, send me an email. I have a whole document I created on how to pass that video verification if you need it. So maybe you might need it. Sorry. I wasn't there. Step number 2 is complete everything. Everything. Don't skip. I know it's super easy to just be like, okay, it's created, it's verified, and skip through it. Oh, it matters. As I mentioned, I was just at a HubSpot conference, huge AI and marketing conference for all these large corporations, mid-market companies, and very big speakers in terms of the SEO world and AI. The CEO of multiple CEOs of different AI companies were there speaking at the conference. And one thing I can say about AI is it is scraping your information on your website. You could say whatever you want on your website, and AI is going to believe that and then spit it out to your potential customers. If you ask AI anything about our company, Wolfpack, it's going to spit out exactly what's on our website. And so it's listening to what you're putting on the Google Business Profile. So if you have some unique value, some unique selling or unique value propositions, unique things about you that you want people to know about, very clear opportunity, put it in your Google Business Profile. That's so, so important. Communicate that. If you're working with an agency, communicate that with your agency so they can help you do that and achieve that as well. So you're going to fill out everything accurately. Do not try to cheat the system. Please don't try to cheat the system, okay? If it's a private home, listed as a private home, If you do try to cheat the system, Google is going to catch up to you at some point. If not, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to be working with the clients. They're going to tell me it's this, their competitor is cheating the system, and they're going to ask, hey, is there a possible way to report a Google Business Profile? And I'm going to say, yeah, you can report a Google Business Profile. And people can have other people take down your Google Business Profile if you're cheating the system, okay? So don't do it. It's not worth it. If you don't know how to fill out some of the boxes, just ask ChatGPT or Google for help. If you don't already have like ChatGPT bookmarked on your browser or on your phone, go ahead and download the app and just have it bookmarked. You can ask it anything. Number 3, I made this its own point. It could really just fall under complete everything, but this is a very, very important piece, is add professional photos. They have to be professional photos. So what do I mean by that? I mean you need to hire some type of photographer. It can be, if your daughter's good with photography, if you have a friend or whatever, that's totally fine. You don't need to go all out and spend thousands of dollars on photography. But you need to have someone that knows kind of what they're doing and can do some basic editing or set you up for success, okay? Please don't take a picture of the electrical panel and just post it. Please don't do that. Please don't take a picture of some polybutylene piping and being like, yep, that's going on the Google Business Profile. Please don't do that either, because customers, I'm telling you, they don't know what that means. They don't know what aluminum wiring is. They don't know what the picture of the pool is. They don't know what the shingle damage that you can obviously see. That's so obvious. It's not obvious to them. What they want to see is you shaking hands with the real estate agent, shaking hands with the client happy, the agent happy, you actually doing the inspection, what it looks like to work with you. They need to capture that in these photos. Because when I'm looking at the Google Business Profiles, or if I'm a customer and I'm looking at home inspectors near me and the Google local service ads pop up, they use these photos. And I want to see, what does it look like to work with this particular company? If I see a bunch of defect photos of electrical panels, polybutylene piping, water leaks, roof leaks, thermal camera pictures, because I know we all like our thermal camera pictures, right? How they're so cool, right? I don't understand what that means. But when I see somebody that looks professional, that's shaking hands, introducing themselves, I can see them walking through the attic, their cool flashlight, they have a polo on, they have some nice pants on, they look put together, then I know I'm going to choose that particular person. Or, hey, I'm willing to spend the premium to work with this particular company versus some other inspector that maybe is charging a little bit less. All right, so let's get into optimize for reviews. So for optimizing for reviews, it breaks down into 3 steps. Number 1 is you have to ask. It's pretty obvious there. I want you to ask every client and their buyer's agent. No excuse. Clients and their buyer's agent. Yes?
I've seen these small cards from Google. It's a QR code, and you can hand out these cards with the QR code in them. What do you think of those things?
Definitely love it. I love anything that is going to help you get more reviews.
It's easy for them.
It is easy for them. The way that you take it a step further is with software such as ISN. You can automate the process of sending a text message and an email out through ISN. So if, Aaron, I don't know if ISN's here and they can help with that. Yeah, but you can just send a text message out with the review link. You can send the email out automatically with just the review link. I like to keep it very short and simple. Hey, so-and-so, have 2 seconds, click here to leave me your feedback. And that way they could just click the link rather than sometimes holding on to this, forgetting that piece of paper and scanning the QR code and then going from there. The text message is a little bit easier.
Do you prefer one or the other?
Between the text message and the email?
Yeah.
Just do both. Just do both, yeah. Just.
Is there a way to track which one is better?
So text message, notably, is going to get a higher click-through rate from what we've seen. But I know that plenty of people just don't, for whatever reason, respond to SMS or they don't get delivered somehow. So email is always that good backup. Yeah. So second part, email and SMS. Email's great, but SMS is better. Make it super short and easy to click the link. I've worked with some companies that have onboarded with us. We have our own review request system that like does a full-blown optimization of it. And sometimes their marketing person likes to get in there and like make it all like fancy and, you know, add some extra wording, make it all pretty. Don't do that. Don't do that. That ruins the point of the conversion. My point is, hey, Sam, have 2 seconds? Click here and leave us your feedback. That's it. You can put a logo, you can put your name at the end afterwards, but any other fancy language that you put in there is going to lower your conversion rate. Yes?
The question is, okay, we do that for every job. Three-quarters of the time they don't respond, and we know they were happy. So how many times do you send that out and not be obnoxious? Because I know myself, when I get these from United or whoever, I'm like, okay, I don't have the time. So how many times can you remind them before you get obnoxious?
It's a great question. On my third bullet point, send immediately and 24 hours later. So twice. We're sending it twice. Okay? So what we're looking at here is, let me say the wording first, is send it right after the inspection is completed and 24 hours later. 3 days after the inspection, they have forgotten about you. Okay? So what does that look like? When you're at the home inspection and you have the client and agent there and you're doing the post-review and you're sliding through all the pictures, that is the highest point that you have that client and the agent. That is where the relationship with you is the best. So that is when you need to ask for the review, right there. 3 days later, I have, again, some companies that are like, no, I need to wait like 2 days later. I don't want to bombard them. They've forgotten about you. They're moving on. They're ready to the next thing that their agent is working with them on, okay? That is your moment to capture them. So you got the first business, you got the lead, you have them sitting there. How do you get the next one? You get the next one by showing the social proof, which is getting the review. So that's your next job, is after you complete that inspection, get that review to get the next one. So you're going to send an email and a text message right after the job is complete. Again, ISN can automate this for you. Once you upload the report, you can send some type of trigger that says, hey, I've uploaded the report. I'll automatically send my email and text message out. You're going to send an email and a text message out at the same time. So if you have a client and a buyer's agent, you have 4 messages going out at one time. You have the email and text message going out to the clients, and you have an email and text message going out to the agent. That's right after the report is completed, or right after, hey, Dave, it was great meeting with you today. Yep, let me know if you need help in the future or whatever. Call me if you have any questions. Boom, Dave gets the text message that says, hey, Dave, how was Aaron for your inspection? Please click here, leave your feedback. Yes?
Okay, a lot of the reviews I've seen have the 5 boxes, good, worse, bad, whatever. Also then leave a comment. Let's say we're at the site and give them an access to the review right then and there at the inspection. Can they do the 5, let's say they do the 5th box, is great, we had a great inspection, but then not do any verbiage, does that affect us?
No.
So just the boxes is fine, or the verbiage is even better?
Yeah, the more context you can give to Google, the more Google is going to love you. And the better that AI is going to be able to read your reviews and know about your particular company. If you have raving fans that are going to talk about, hey, yeah, he did such an amazing job on my commercial inspection, throw all on those fancy keywords in there, you bet you're going to get more commercial inspections because of that compared to some other home inspector that doesn't have any context to his reviews. So the context in the reviews is important, yes. But you can get what you can get, ultimately. Yeah.
I'm trying to convince my partner here to add on their review email. If you leave 5 stars, we're going to give you $5 to $10 gift card to Starbucks instead. You add that price to the inspection, so let's say you raise the inspection price $10 more. And then on the review, you offer that. If you leave a 5-star, we'll give you $10 gift card. What do you think?
I definitely think it's something worth split testing and seeing what happens. Yeah, so Google doesn't have any policy. They're not going to know. You're going to be completely fine with Google. Things like other platforms like Yelp, they're going to flag that down and not be happy with that whatsoever, because with Yelp, you're not even allowed to ask for reviews. What I'll say to that is most people, including myself, are stupid, and we don't read. We skim, and then we just click a button, and it's a green button, because they're like, oh yeah, we're creatures of habits. We don't read, we don't understand. So I like the idea, I like the concept. I think it's worth split testing. I think what's really going to matter is how it's presented and in what way, in order to get the message across and to get the effectiveness that you want. And it could take some tweaking and playing around with. Did you have a question?
Instead of getting coffee from Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks, I think the gas cards are a better hook. Like 10 to 20 bucks for free gas on one of these cards to give to the client.
Yeah.
I think it's a much better hook than coffee.
Yeah, gas cards could definitely work. Not for me. I'm a coffee person, and I drive an electric vehicle, so the gas probably wouldn't work for me. My mower is even electric. Yeah, another question.
Yeah, you were talking about Google My Business Profiles. Do you have an opinion of, like, say a company has maybe 3 different markets, and they have a Google page in each market, the geographically close to the clients. Let's say you've only got like 300 reviews on each page. Do you think it's a good idea to centralize those, so maybe you've got like 1,000, but it'd be in one location? Or do you think, I don't know if it makes sense from asking.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. And I love this question. So let's say, what market is this company in? Texas? Okay, so like maybe the business profiles are split between like Austin, Houston, and like, okay. So let's say you're in Texas, you're split between Austin and Houston. We have 2 different Google business profiles. So the way Google business profiles work from an SEO standpoint, all right, it's 3 main factors. 1, the relevance. Are you a home inspector? Yes, you're a home inspector. 2, authority. How many reviews do you have? Cool. How many reviews do you have compared to the competition that's in your local area? And 3 is proximity. So everybody's on their mobile phones nowadays, which my phone's back there. But if I'm on my phone, right, how close is your Google business profile to me? If you have a private address, well, guess what? You're not close to anybody because you don't have a public office. Google doesn't use that. That is one of the issues. So naturally, you're ranking on Google for your proximity or close location to where your office would be. Doesn't matter. There's a lot more things. I'm kind of oversimplifying it there. So that's one part to consider is if you're going to have a separate Google business profile with a separate location, it's probably worth it to have a public address. The other thing to consider in terms of the reviews, in terms of either splitting it, is that authority piece. So what is the local competition? If the local competition, everybody has thousands and thousands of reviews in that market, and you're like, I want to rank in downtown Austin because that's where the most searches are, well, guess what? You're going to have thousands and thousands of reviews, right? And you're going to have a public office in Austin, right where that competition does. Does that answer your question? Yeah, you can definitely merge them together. You can go to Google support. It is going to be a little bit finicky, but you can definitely go to Google support to do that. Did you want to like share the mic with these questions? Is that what? Yeah. Okay. I'll make sure we do that next time. All right. So we talked about setting up the Google business profile. We just talked about optimizing for reviews. Now let's get into answering the phone and breaking down the 3 steps of how you need to answer the phone. So number 1. Know your skill set. If you're bad at answering the phone, just be honest with yourself, okay? We really need to be honest and truthful. Are we good at answering the phone? Do we like talking to people on the phone? If you're not, give the job to somebody else. You can hire, I know ACC's here. You can hire somebody that's part-time. Ultimately, they're going to make you appear way more professional than you could as well. How many times, if you were to try to, like, I think about this constantly, if people were trying to reach out to me directly, and instead they got somebody's like, no, I'm Aaron's assistant, how can I help you? Well, now I appear a lot more professional, don't I? Right? So it's the same thing for you and your company. If you don't pick up the phone, it's somebody else that's answering for it, making your schedule. They're automatically going to give you more money because I know as a business owner myself, it's a lot easier to give discounts on your services or to get frustrated when somebody asks for a discount. 2, they're not going to give in to people asking for changes in your schedule. Maybe you don't want to work on a weekend, or maybe you don't want to do that inspection at Friday at 4 p.m. They're going to be hard on that. And they're just going to sound a whole lot more professional and be able to answer the phone compared to you when you're in an attic actually doing an inspection. You're not going to be able to schedule that job right then and there. You're not going to be able to give it your full focus. Number 2 is it's a sales call. So these are not people that know you. These are not people that trust you. You have to earn their trust on that phone call. It can be hard, but the right person excels at this. And I'll go back to me working at my family's home inspection company, and I worked in the office for a few months during a given time. And during that time, every person calling in knew who the company was, knew who I was, knew the inspector that they wanted to work with, and just knew everything. They're like, yep, I'm totally good. I want the home inspection. I want the wind mitt, the 4-point. I need the WDO. Hey, there is some issues with mold. I think we're going to want to consider some indoor air quality. Okay, sure, no problem. Well, now I have an $800 home inspection. Boom. But it's because that agent knew me, trusted us, has used us before, knew exactly who they wanted to speak with and have for their inspector. This is somebody that is a cold lead. They don't know you. They don't trust you. They have no idea what a home inspection is. So this call has to be treated completely differently. And it takes sometimes different personalities to be able to mesh with that type of person, be able to communicate effectively about that. Too often, when I'm listening to these calls, our inspectors missing calls, but then when they're answering their own phones, they don't treat it like a sales call. They pick up the phone and they say like, yeah, if you don't want to work with me, that's fine. Click. And I get it. I get it.
No, not at all. I've heard that before.
What's that?
I said, I've just heard that before.
I get it. Sometimes I feel the same way. But a lot of times, again, we have to earn their trust, be nice, and if you take the time to educate them, they're going to book for all those items, indoor air quality, as long as presented in the right way. And number 3, follow up. Give them a quote. Follow up at least twice in email, text, and voicemail. After 24 hours, assume the inspection is gone. These are tight timelines that people are working with, okay? It was going down to one point, like 5-day inspection period. I know the average is about 7 across the country. Sometimes people or agents putting it down to 5. Okay, so this point is very important. What I typically like to do is if somebody calls in the morning, I'm going to send them the quote and say, yeah, I'm just interested in a quote. Cool, I'll send it over an email. Let me know if you have any questions on that. ISN, boom, you can send an email template that has your nice, beautiful quote that you just gave for them. It already has created a draft order with an ISN. You send them a quote. By noon, I am following up with a phone call, an email, and a text message. You might think it's overkill. Trust me, it's not. Trust me, it's not. Call one of those big HVAC companies on Google Local Service Ads, and let me tell you how many phone calls you're going to get when you don't book the first time. Some of those HVAC companies that are very large, they are going to call your phone repeatedly. So following up 2 other times after the initial call is not going to bother somebody that much. You might get some person that's a little bit grumpy. That's okay. I get a little grumpy too. You might get a little grumpy too. Don't take it personally.
I heard one guy say, if I don't ever have a customer who's a little grumpy because I call too much, then I'm not calling them. If you get 0 complaints, that means you're not calling them. You don't want to go over the edge, but you want to get right up to it. Sorry, thanks.
I completely agree with that. How many people here love cold calls? Like answering a cold call? You don't mind answering cold calls? Like you'll answer for somebody that's a spam caller? You don't mind it either?
I love spam callers.
You love spam callers? Yeah? Nice. You love them, Dave? Okay, is it because you mess with them that you love them, or do you enjoy talking with them? Because you mess with them. So, I'll tell you a funny story, Dave. Would you be surprised if I told you that just about a month ago, for 2 weeks, I spent about half of my day, every day, cold calling?
Okay. Now, how do you introduce yourself?
How do I?
This is spam calls I get. Thank you. You asked me to call you. Boom. I mess with you because you're lying off the bat. Or do you do an honest introduction?
Oh, no, mine is honest.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get why that's annoying. Well, I'll say just from the cold call standpoint, I had hundreds of calls that I had done over a 2-week period. I think it was about a 3 weeks period. I think I had maybe 1 or 2 people, kind of get a little bit frustrated. But they're a little bit frustrated was like, I'm not interested, thank you, click. I didn't take it that personally. Moved on. But we booked 3 meetings with it and sent out 2 proposals to close business, which would have been sizable business for us to do. So back to my thing with the phone calls is follow up twice. You're really not hurting anything.
Give you one more difference though between your calls and mostly spam calls.
Sure.
In the background on your call, there's no noise from it, is there?
No.
Most of these spam calls that are coming in now, you can hear the entire office in the background.
Oh, no.
Recorded woman's voice in the beginning saying, "Hi, this is Jessica." Let's close your funding. What's that? Let's close your funding. So there's a difference between what you're doing as you're
Yeah.
versus 90, I'm gonna say 95% of the spam calls that are going on out there.
Yeah.
I have a question on the follow-up twice within like that day period, right? You get a 9 a.m. or anything between 9 and noon, you're following up in the afternoon and then probably before and the close of the day, right? So what do you recommend? Like, I'm thinking in my head, like, oh, hi Erin, I'm just following up on that quote I gave you at 10 a.m. But then at 4 p.m. I don't feel like I can say that same thing again without just sounding desperate.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend?
Yeah, so the question was, in case anybody didn't hear it, is essentially what do you use for your wording when you're following up the second time? It's easy for, like, somebody calls in the morning, when you're calling back in the afternoon, hey, I'm just following up with the quote I gave you this morning, I just want to ask any questions. What is the wording that you would use in the evening? And this response to that is, if by the second call, you're going to know if they answered the phone or not. So if they didn't pick up the phone, I'm leaving them another voicemail. So I'm going to say, hey, Sheila, it's Aaron again, calling from Wolfpack. I know I called you earlier. I just wanted to touch base, see if I could catch you again before end of the day. I was heading out of the office. I wanted to see if I can get that inspection booked with you. If not, totally cool. Just let me know. If you do, shoot me an email or a text message because I'm going to be out of office. Yep.
Don't you think that that looks a little obvious, like you don't have enough work? So, I don't know, that to me, it looks suspicious if you call too many times. I follow up, yeah, I'm interested in 1 follow-up or 2. I think there's a limit.
Yeah, so the question there again, just because I know we're recording as well, is doesn't it seem a little bit suspicious that, hey, if you follow up twice or more than 2 more times, does it seem suspicious in the fact that maybe you don't have enough business or something like that? When you're running an operation and running a large company, it doesn't matter because with that, you're not the one that's calling and you're not the one that's begging for the particular business. You have the client's assumption is you have an office, you have a team, they have a process, and that's what they're following. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
I got a different question. What if you have a business that you took over a new office, but the previous owner of the business still has everything listed there and keeps flagging us, and now has not allowed us to put our business on it?
Could you give?
Restoration business, the address was owned by a
So if I'm understanding correctly, you purchased another company. He had a Google business profile with a certain address, and you're attempting to change that address on Google.
I have another business that I moved into a place where a previous business
Mm.
was listed.
Mhm.
And the gentleman, whoever had it listed, still has, I mean, I'm still getting mail. I've gone to the post office, I've called Google, I've emailed Google, I've gone through hell and back, and keeps getting flagged.
Okay. So you moved into a property, and the previous business hasn't told Google that he's moved out yet, and so your stuff is getting flagged saying, like, hey, you can't claim this because somebody's already claimed it. Cool. That's a great and unique circumstance. What I'll say to that is there is a way around it. You just have to spend your time with Google and get all of your documents in place. And by documents, I mean you need utility bill. You need to prove that, hey, no, with the state, I have this place registered as a place of business with the state. Here's the documentation to support that. Here's my utility bill. Here's all this information, and go to Google that way with it. At that point, they can't argue with you. So you can give them the full story with that. It does take work. It does take time. But those types of situations, again, our team deals with consistently. Sometimes we can nail it with the right representative, the Google representative, that it's like, oh, yep, cool, done. Sometimes it takes a month to go back and forth with them. But it is definitely doable.
No, on kind of the same lines, we have two businesses, two separate businesses, one home inspection, one's building. It's the same business. So trying to get the Google page for the building company has been awesome. Keeps violation. So is it kind of the same thing, even though it's, we're owners of the same both companies, same building, same office. We have logos for two different companies on it.
Mhm.
But, yeah, I can't seem to get the building company.
Yeah, again, for that particular situation, just repeating it so everybody could hear it is, if you have two businesses, you have a home inspection and then a building company that is working out of one particular office, is having issues getting the other business verified at the same location. Again, it is doable. It's not against Google's policies to have anything like that. What is probably happening is, again, Google's probably auto-flagging it. They have a lot of detection systems to capture cases like this where somebody tries to capture somebody's office or something like that. So we just need to do our due diligence, get all the paperwork together, our entire case study, and information together, and then go to the right people with Google. Sometimes that is even like going to the Google forums and getting some of those really senior community members, like those diamond level experts, in order to go on their end and communicate with Google, because they usually have a little bit more authority. And that's happened, I think, twice in the last 3 or 6 months where we've had to reach out to the forums and communicate to somebody that is at that level. So everybody that has the Google business profile issue, just come to our booth, leave me your business card, okay? And we'll follow up, okay? All right. So what does it look like to track everything? I'm going to give you a bunch of different metrics. I don't want you to try and frantically write everything down. Be present with me. At the end of this, you'll get a copy of the presentation, okay? But these are the metrics that you need to track religiously, okay? Sometimes you could track this on a monthly basis, which is okay. I like to be a little bit more aggressive and track it every single week. Just know that you're going to have some weeks that are bad weeks, okay? So the first metric I want you to look at is your spend, which is your total spend on ads. That's that $1,800 that we saw in the first case study. The second thing that we're going to look at is your quote values. Your quote values is the total value of the quotable jobs. So if I get in 5 leads and I quote 3 of them because they are for home inspections in my service area, and each quote that I gave out was $500, my total quote values would be $1,500. 3 jobs, each valued at $500. Sales values. This is the total value of your sales. If I quoted $1,500 of jobs from 3 separate leads, but I booked 2 of them, my sales value is now $1,000. Okay? Quote values $1,500, sales value $1,000. Next is our cost per lead. This is our total spend divided by our total leads. So if we spent $1,800, we divide that by our total number of leads, which is about in that case study before, 100 leads, which would be a cost per lead of $18, right? Close rate, very, 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 very important too, which is our total leads divided by our closed leads, or in case our won leads. How many jobs did we book? This is very, very important. I'll get into the actual averages that I see with home inspection companies that are working with us and what you should be shooting for with all these different metrics as well. Total return. So the total return on ad spend is just your total spend. That would be that $1,800 divided by the total sales value. So in that case study at the very beginning of this, the sales value that they earned was $20,000. They spent $1,800. You divide 1,800 divided by 20,000, and that's where I got the 1,100% from. All right, so this is key metrics continued, where I'm going into what the metrics you should be shooting for. What are the actual metrics that I'm seeing as well? So number one, on the spend, whatever you can reasonably afford. If that's $1,000, I want you to imagine that $1,000 is kissing goodbye. Okay? You're burning it. I want you to think about it that way. You're not actually burning it, but it could happen, and I don't want you to be all upset when I told you to spend a certain amount. So whatever you can reasonably afford. Your quote values needs to be 10 times whatever your spend is. Has to be. If your quote value is not 10 times what your spend is, then you're not going to be able to get a high return on investment. Okay, so what does this look like in practice? Well, if I spent $1,000 in ads, I need to quote at least $10,000 worth of jobs. Next is our sales values. This is the minimum that you should be hitting, that I want you to hit. I'll tell you the average on Google ads and advertising in general is about 2 times or 200%. So what I'm saying here is it's 350%, but your sales value needs to be at least 3.5 times your spend. That's what I want you to hit, okay? But the average I can say is 200 or 2 times across all different companies, all different industries.
This might be a dumb question, and I'm sure you guys all know the answer, but why isn't it a good idea for an inspector, if you're saying 2 times, that's probably not great, right? Like if you're getting 2 times your investment, you spent $1,000 and you're getting $2,000 in sales, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that picture? Essentially means you're getting half. You only get paid for half your inspection, right? So like 3.5 times, now you're getting pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, when I saw that, my initial thought is, 2 times, that's great, I can double my money. But I would assume, I appreciate you putting that there. 3.5 times probably needs to be your minimum.
Yeah. Aaron, I love you for this question because now I'm going to get all nuanced. So, to get a little bit more advanced here, the highest level of companies are okay with a 200% return on investment. And you want to know why? Because that's the cost to acquire that agent. That agent, they know on average, every new agent that they work with, they're going to bring in 3 more inspections. So they know the return on investment is actually a lot higher than 200%. It's more like 700 or 1,000%, 7 times or 10 times of what their original investment was. So, Aaron, yes, absolutely to your point, if you're not capturing the lifetime value of that agent or the lifetime value of a customer, and I know in home inspections, it's usually one and done. You know, people don't change homes until every 7 years. So our lifetime value is in the agent, not the client, unless you have other businesses like remediation companies or you're doing some type of work. But to that point, if you're just thinking about it that way, definitely a 200% return on investment isn't great. But the funny thing is, too, is most businesses advertising don't know that, don't understand it, and so they think they're getting a 200% return on investment. They spent $1,000, they got $2,000 out, and most of them are going, nice, great job. But also them advertising, funny enough, too, maybe you want to do this in your particular market, maybe you're not getting a good return on investment. But the fact that you are advertising is rising the costs up for everybody else. And I can afford it, so I'm going to keep on doing it. Good luck, everybody else. Anyway, just fun little nuance there. Cost per lead. Your cost per lead is going to vary on the market. If you're in Southern California, expect a cost per lead of like $70. If you're in Maine, there's a guy in Maine, he gets like $8 for a home inspection. Is that crazy? His fees are still $500 at least, and he's paying $8 for a lead. Good for him. If you're in South Florida, same thing, expect $60, $70 for a lead. It just depends on your individual market. How many competitors there, what's the demand, what's the supply, how much Google wants to take from everything. Your cost per lead also goes up the more money that you spend. The entire thing is an auction. So if we're sitting here and I'm doing the whole rambling thing and you guys are raising your paddles, that's what's going on in Google Ads. Google is just raising the paddle for you because you're not there to participate actively in the auction. Your close rate. This is of the calls, the good leads that you receive, how many you actually close. What I want you to hit and what I want you to shoot for is 40%. I will say the average is below 33%. Probably below 30%, which isn't good. It's not good.
Is that 40% of first-time callers? Because obviously we have to announce the calls all the time.
Yeah, this is of your quotable jobs, how many you got to sales.
So if I have a laydown, that's a quote too.
I'm sorry?
If I have a laydown, that's a quote too. Like my regular clients, they call, they book.
Correct.
Sometimes we don't even get prices.
Correct. So it's anytime somebody is calling in for a job. If it is a repeat caller and it's about the same one, don't count that. If it's a spam caller, don't count it. It's only of opportunities that you can close. If somebody calling in for a radon, they call in 3 separate times, you're only counting it the one time. Okay? I have a little bit of a bone to pick here because there's a lot of companies I speak with at these conferences, on the phone, during consultations, and they'll say, well, my close rate's 80%. Cool. No, it's not. No, it's not, because if it was 80%, you wouldn't be sitting here talking to me. But what I'll say is you need to be able to track the close rate of, hey, the people that know you and trust you, what got you in business and how you're getting business naturally today. Sure, your close rate could be 60, 70, maybe 80%. But this is a whole nother ballgame. Right? These are people, again, that we don't know you, don't trust you. Your close rate is not 80% on those calls. Okay? What I'll say again, the average is about 30% or below 30%. The top performing companies are 40% or higher on this. Okay? And I want you to be a top performing company, so I want you to hit this. If you do all of this right, your total return is going to be at least 500% or 5 times. So meaning for every dollar you put in, you got $5 out. If you have an inspection fee that's $100, that means you spent $20 of that inspection fee to acquire it. Now keep in mind too, to take this to the next level, the higher level thinking is it took me $20 to capture that one inspection that resulted from me meeting a new agent that I used, my marketing person, or some people use the Wolfpack automated system in order to capture that agent. And I know on average, every new agent I meet, I'm going to get 3 more inspections out of. So no, it wasn't $100. It was actually over the lifetime of that agent, I'm going to make $3,000. All right, let's get into optimize and scale. So once you know your numbers, you can scale your budget. Once we know all of those key metrics, I can confidently scale everything. However, we have to be careful. In this graph here, this is a bunch of fake numbers, so I don't really think there's anything legit here. But what we have is something like a linear graph going up, right? It's 1-to-1. So we spend more money, we get more leads. It doesn't work that way. What works with Google Ads is as you spend more money, the cost per lead also goes up. So it doesn't scale linearly. If you are getting $20 per lead now and you double your budget, it's very possible that your cost per lead also doubles or triples because there's only limited supply and you're going up against the competition. But what I will say is it's so important to know your numbers because then you can confidently increase your budget And it makes all of your competitors in your market start to squirm a little bit because they can't afford it. The more you spend, the higher cost per lead, so you may get a point where you need to diversify. And this is where the fun part comes in with diversification. Number one that we talked about is Google local service ads. Google local service ads, if you just look for home inspectors near me or home inspectors New Orleans, that first blurb of advertising that appear that shows Google verified, that's Google local service ads. Underneath that, you have Google search ads. That is the OG Google ads, Google search AdWords or whatever you want to call it. So Google local service ads used to be easy, now not so much. You used to be able to set it up and just track everything and know that you're getting a positive return on investment. It was very cheap. It is very competitive now, just like Google search ads is. So set it up, track everything, see how you do, but expect to diversify. I, again, have some markets that it performs very, very well. I have some markets that they have to diversify because they're in a competitive market. And so they have to see what's going on. So with Google search ads or Google AdWords, it's an easy addition to your Google local service ad campaign. Most people diversify here to maximize their reach on Google, right? Because the first part is that Google local service ads on search. The second part is Google search ads or Google AdWords, if we want to call it that. And that's how we capture like the secondary market or whenever Google local service ads doesn't appear. Next up, I don't have this on this chart, but you can also do Bing or Microsoft ads. That's another opportunity. They still don't have a lot of the market share, so the amount of budget that you can push to that and the amount of business that you can get to that is not going to be as high. But what I've noticed with a lot of companies, actually with Microsoft, is the return on investment is much higher. So you might not spend as much, you might not get a high volume, but the return on investment is much better compared to Google because a lot of people are not advertising on that particular platform. Next up with Facebook and Instagram ads, otherwise known as meta ads. Once you're performing well with local service ads and Google search ads, then I would consider Facebook. I have a bunch of writing here. Again, you're going to get this presentation. I'm going to read it once, and then I'm going to break it down and explain it a little bit more. But it says once you are performing well with high intent searches, meaning local service ads or Google search ads, we can begin doing brand awareness campaigns mixed with conversion campaigns on Meta, TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube. Video goes far. So what does that mean? Let's think about marketing a little bit and where our consumers are coming from. With Google local service ads and Google search, can anybody tell me at what point in the buying stage is somebody at with that? You don't have to give me the actual marketing terminology for it, but at what stage are they at? Decision? Who said that? You said decision? Yeah. They're ready to make a decision. They're ready to purchase. It's a high intent keyword that we're focusing on. We're focusing on people at the bottom of the funnel, people ready to make the purchase. That's what Google Ads is all about. That's why people are so successful with it. And that's why you can track the return on investment so easily because it goes from, I'm searching for a home inspector, I found one, I booked. With other platforms and other advertising, it doesn't work like that, okay? So with meta ads, it is audience-based. So with Google, we are targeting keywords. The keywords determines the intent and where somebody is at in their buying decision or their buying journey. With meta ads, we can't target people that are at that buying point for home inspections in our industry. It's very, very difficult to do. So instead, what do we have to do? One of the easiest things to do that I've recommended to a lot of different companies is we target agents, right? We just don't know at what point are they going to be ready to buy. Consumers, you can definitely go direct to consumer with meta ads. I'm going to say we've seen some mixed results with that just because, again, people only move every 7 years. So you're kind of, in a way, wasting sometimes your spend. However, you could do different types of campaigns like retargeting campaigns. to go on a tangent on retargeting campaigns a little bit, it's when somebody visits your site and then they go back to Facebook and then they see your advertisements. I like retargeting campaigns. My one argument against retargeting campaigns is they might have booked anyway. And now all of a sudden your meta ad campaign gets the credit for conversion. But maybe they were going to call you anyway. Regardless, with meta ads or other types of advertising, we have to target an audience. That audience, when we first target them, is usually some type of cold audience. We don't know where they're at in their buying journey. They could be very top of funnel, meaning cold. We warm them up with an awareness video awareness campaign. They go down the journey and, hey, they're ready to actually make a decision. They're warmed up to you. They know you. They trust you because they've seen your ads. They've interacted with your ads. Maybe they watched your ad for 10 seconds and then clicked on your homepage and then just glanced through it. Well, now, because you watched that advertisement for 10 seconds, Wolfpack can create a separate campaign that says, hey, these people watched the advertisement for at least 10 seconds. Now I want you to show them a conversion campaign. And in the conversion campaign, we are asking for the business at that point. The awareness campaign, we're educating, we're bringing awareness, we're making it entertaining, we're capturing their attention. Of those people that give their attention, hey, I know this resonates with them, now show them conversion-based campaigns, right? And then they finally convert. What we've noticed with meta campaigns across many different companies that we've tested with this is they actually get a lower cost per conversion compared to these. These are so competitive and highly used that it raises the price for everybody. It's super easy to set up, so the cost per lead is really high. These take a lot more work, right? And take more time, sometimes 2 or 3 months before you even get your first lead. So the cost per lead, what we've noticed, is much lower. The return on investment is much higher with meta ads. It takes more money. It takes more time. It takes more expertise. Before I continue on here, does anybody have any questions about advertising platforms as a whole? Because I'm happy to talk about that here. Bird's Eye. What do I think about Bird's Eye? For what part of Bird's Eye? I'm not a fan of Bird's Eye. I don't know too much about them, but I'm just not a fan of Bird's Eye all that much, to be quite frank. They're another tech company. I think that they're great for some markets, but I honestly think a lot of home inspectors could save their money on it. And yeah. Bird Eye is just a marketing company. Oh yeah. Bird Eye is just a marketing company that is tech. So it's a software that they resell to help you do with your particular marketing. But a lot of it you could do on yourself or on your own. All right. So let's end on with some couple notes about this. First off, it's not easy. I know I made it sound easy. It's not. It takes work. It takes time. If it were easy, everyone would be rich, including myself. Right? Because everybody would just spend $1,000 on Google and make it $100,000, and we wouldn't be sitting in this room. And we wouldn't be coming to conferences. It's not. So tracking everything every week takes the work. You have to dedicate the time to track it. What I'll say is you'll find, listening to your calls, hey, I could have done a better job with this. My close rate is not working. Or I'm not quoting enough. If you realize from those key metrics that I mentioned before, you realize what the problem is and how to fix it. If you're not quoting enough, if you don't have a 10 times quote value from your spend, you know you're not getting quality leads, right? If your sales value is not 3.5 times your spend, you know you have a close rate issue. So as long as you're tracking those over a week, you'll know specifically what the problem is. Second point here is not all months are going to be great. Definitely not. This entire thing is an auction. It changes week by week. You have competitors in your markets that are at home right now setting up their Google ad campaigns. that are trying to compete against you. So don't be afraid if you have 3 months that are not great. Now, if they're really bad, you just wasted a bunch of money. That's why I said go back to what you could reasonably afford, because I don't want you to just spend a bunch of money and then be like, I needed that. Like, I need you to expect to be able to burn it. But be okay with 3 months of not getting anything or getting a little bit and not being great. But I guarantee you the companies that stick with it, what happens is every single time they stuck with it, and then for the next 3 months, the return on investment was crazy. Especially in commercial inspections when you're advertising for commercial jobs. What I see consistently is because there's not enough supply out there. So I've had a company, he was a single guy. He just wanted commercial inspections, and he was based in Colorado. He wasn't doing great at any marketing agency. And at Wolfpack, a lot of people that work with us were their last marketing agency for a lot of people. He wasn't doing great at all, and then he came over to us, said he just wanted to do commercial jobs. I was like, dude, are you sure you're not going to get a ton of business? Like, you're going to spend this money, and like, it could be a month where you don't get anything. He's like, no, I'm okay. I trust you. So like, okay. He spent $500 a month for 3 months. On his third month, he still hadn't had anything, but by the end of his third month, he closed a $20,000 commercial job. So stick with it. Be a little bit patient. Don't get frustrated if you haven't gotten anything in 1 to 2 months. All right, ads is not everything. My final point here. Just like how we mentioned to diversify ad spend platforms, you need to do the same with your marketing strategy. It's not all about advertising. Branding and traditional marketing is still important. Your website, SEO, and social are still so crucial, right? Everybody knows the saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put all of your eggs in advertising. There are companies that do. It's their Achilles heel. It's working for them now. At some point, it may not work for them. You need to diversify. What we were lucky enough when I was working at Waypoint is they did a lot of traditional marketing, where they did a lot of visiting offices and everything. But I pushed them and said, like, hey, like, I'm really having fun with digital. Can I please do digital? I want to spend some money. I want to test this out. I want to get it working, right? And then COVID hit, and they couldn't go into a single office. So at some point, maybe the internet shuts off. I don't know. All right, so real quick, I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots. If you can't see this, again, you're going to get the presentation at the end. But this is just a centralized dashboard so you can see how Wolfpack does it. You can see the quote values here. It might be a little bit hard to read. It looks a little blurry to me, but quote values here, sales values here, the total number of leads, and then all your leads are down here. So we know exactly, hey, how many leads were quotable? How many leads were not quotable? What is your total sales value and return on investment? Then we can group that by source. So we know exactly all your different leads, which ones were quotable or not, what your quote value is, what your sales value is, any particular notes, and then the source. So was it Google search ads? Was it Google guaranteed or Google local service ads? Was it Facebook ads? Was it Instagram? Was it Microsoft or Bing ads? We know all of that. And we also track the entire buying journey. So if we're showing somebody meta ads, we can see that they clicked on your website 30 days ago, then they saw the other campaign and they clicked on your website again, and then they called. And I can see their IP address, so I know where they live. It doesn't show the map on here, but if I had their IP address, like they submitted a web form, I know exactly where they're at. We also listen to the call and transcribe everything. And then we use this transcription to actually send the transcription over to AI platforms. So we ask, essentially, ChatGPT a couple different questions about it. There's a couple different cool questions that we ask, but we basically ask, like, hey, was this a lead? Is this somebody that is closable? If so, update that quotable field with, yeah, it's quotable. Was this call booked? If so, for how much? Did they give a quote? If so, how much? How could the person on the phone do better to book the call if they didn't book it on the phone? And it gives all that advice and the total breakdown. What services was this caller interested in? And we break that all down using AI, and we generate a summary for that. What this has done is essentially a big part of advertising is that there's a heavy investment in terms of lead qualification. So if we sent you 100 leads, like 80 of them are going to be good, 20 of them might be bad or just spam, right? So somebody has to go through that. Somebody has to mark all these stuff and everything else. So what we've developed with this lead qualification is using and integrating that data with AI to ask these prompting questions. So that way it's just automatically filtered. So you don't have to listen to all this information and all these calls. And then we automate the reports. It's zoomed in, but this report again shows you your top conversion type by leads. So for this particular company, it was mostly phone calls. Then about 15% was web forms, and then they had 5 text messages for this company. I could see their total quote value from this period of time, what they booked in sales, what their spend was, and their cost per lead, and that's totally broken down as well. So they spent a cost per lead for this particular company within this point of time. It was $5. Their marketing spend, their advertising spend was $744, and their sales value from this was $1,100. But here's the problem. Their quote value was over $6,000. They quoted over $6,000 worth of job, but they only booked $1,000. Right? So the return on investment wasn't good. So that's where we need to look at that lead analysis to understand why this particular company isn't closing. Right? I have a podcast called the Marketing Alpha Podcast. Go ahead and give it a follow on, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. In this podcast, I interviewed with a former marketing agency owner, but also the co-founder of this platform that we use called What Converts. And he had a beautiful theory on how the rich get richer in Google Ads. The first one is with Google Ads, there's a new thing that happened in the last couple of years is you can actually report the sales value or if you booked it, and send that back to Google. So we automatically do this with our dashboard. So if you book a job with Google and you report in that dashboard that I showed you, the sales value, or AI automatically fills that in with the sales value of what you booked the job for, it sends that data back to Google. So how does that work then? Well, then Google reads that and understands, hey, you spent $1,000 last month. And the value that you brought in was $7,500. I know you're getting value from this money. Now I know how much I can charge, right? Because you're giving Google that data. But not only that, I know in your market, you're the only company that is giving me this value data. So I know you are getting me the best value or what the most amount of money from the leads that I'm sending you. So I'm going to promote your advertisement more and optimize you over somebody else. Not only that, I know that these type of people are the ones that convert most for you and deliver the highest value. So Google, on its algorithm, can optimize for the people that give you the most amount of money. Fun little fact there. He had this theory that essentially Google's using that information against you as well as helping you in a way because they know they can charge more, but they're also pushing your advertisements a little bit further against competitors if your competitors aren't entering that value data at all. How much I believe it? I think it's up in the air. I think Google definitely uses that information a little bit, but I think that they're definitely going to be able to bring you more value if you insert that sales value there and send it back to Google Ads when you're running your advertisements. All right, this is the end of the presentation. You can grab a copy of everything here. We do have a booth here as well. You can pick up a card, you can pick up a booklet, and always email me with any particular questions. As I mentioned, my family still owns their home inspection company. They also own a roofing company and a pest control company. I love this industry. I love helping you guys. If you email me, message me on Facebook, I'm happy to help however which way I can, okay? So, that being said, thank you for having me.